Commander Jake Sullivan stood at the viewing window of the transport ship, watching the massive space station grow larger as they approached. Kepler Station was huge, bigger than any city he had ever seen. It spun slowly in the darkness of space, its lights twinkling like stars. This was humanity's first visit to the Galactic Academy, and Jake felt the weight of representing his entire species. "Nervous?" asked Dr. Lisa Martinez, joining him at the window. She was Earth's best expert on alien life forms, and she had spent months preparing for this moment. "A little," Jake admitted. "We're about to meet beings from dozens of different worlds. Everything we do here will shape how they see humans for generations." Behind them, the human students were getting ready. Danny Thompson, a farm boy from Kansas, was checking his notes for the 100th time. Amy Foster, who studied ocean life, was organizing her research materials. Carlos Rivera, who had worked on cattle ranches his whole life, was making sure their special cargo was secure. The radio crackled to life. "Human vessel, this is Kepler Station Control. You are cleared for Docking Bay 7. Welcome to the Galactic Academy." The voice belonged to something that was definitely not human. It sounded like wind blowing through metal pipes, but the universal translator made the words clear. Jake pressed the communication button. "Thank you, Kepler Station. We're honored to be here." As their ship moved into the docking bay, Jake could see aliens working on the station. Some looked like giant insects walking on their back legs. Others seemed to float in the air like ghosts made of light. There were reptile-like beings with scales and claws, and some that looked like walking trees. The docking process took an hour. When it was done, Jake gathered his team in the main corridor of their ship. "Remember what we discussed," he said. "We're guests here. These beings have been traveling between stars for thousands of years while we were still learning to make fire. Show respect, but don't be afraid to show them who we are." Dr. Martinez nodded. "The Academy has been peaceful for over 1,000 years. They've never had a war or serious conflict. They achieved this by controlling their aggressive instincts." "What does that mean for us?" asked Danny. "It means they might see us as primitive," Lisa explained. "Humans still have strong emotions and competitive drives. They might think we're dangerous." Carlos laughed. "Wait until they see what we brought with us." Jake smiled. The humans had indeed brought something special. Earth's education department had decided that the best way to show alien students about life on Earth was to bring actual Earth animals. Not recordings or pictures, but living creatures that could demonstrate the diversity of their home world. The airlock opened with a soft hiss, and Jake stepped onto Kepler Station for the first time. The gravity felt normal, but the air smelled different. It was clean, almost sterile, with no hint of the natural scents he was used to on Earth. A group of aliens waited for them in the docking bay. The leader was tall and thin, with silver skin that seemed to glow softly. Its head was elongated, and its eyes were large and completely black. When it spoke, its mouth barely moved. "I am Headmaster Vorthek of the Zentari people," it said. "Welcome to the Galactic Academy. We are pleased to have humans join our community of learning." Jake bowed slightly. "Thank you, Headmaster. I'm Commander Jake Sullivan. This is Dr. Lisa Martinez, our Zeta biologist, and our student representatives." The headmaster's dark eyes studied each human carefully. "You are smaller than we expected, and you emit strong emotional energies. This is normal for your species?" "Yes," Lisa answered. "Humans experience a wide range of emotions. We consider it one of our strengths." One of the other aliens, something that looked like a giant praying mantis, made a clicking sound. The universal translator interpreted it as concern. "Emotions can lead to violence," the insect being said. "Here at the Academy, we have learned to suppress such dangerous impulses. How do you maintain peace on your world with such intensity?" Danny stepped forward. "We don't suppress our emotions, sir. we learn to use them in positive ways, like caring for others or protecting what we love. The aliens exchanged glances that the humans couldn't interpret. Clearly, this was not the answer they expected. Headmaster Vorthik gestured for them to follow. "Come, we will show you to your quarters. Tomorrow, you will begin classes with students from across the galaxy. You will learn our ways, and perhaps we will learn yours." As they walked through the station's corridors, Jake noticed how quiet everything was. Their footsteps echoed, but there were no other sounds. No laughter, no shouting, no signs of the chaos that usually surrounded young beings learning and growing. The alien students they passed in the hallways moved in orderly groups. They spoke in whispers and kept their eyes forward. Even the youngest ones seemed serious and controlled. "Very disciplined," Lisa whispered to Jake. "Too disciplined," Carlos muttered. "Where's the fun in learning if you can't get excited about it?" They reached the human quarters, which were comfortable but plain. Everything was designed for function, not beauty or comfort. "Your educational materials will be delivered tomorrow," Vorthek said. "We understand you have brought specimens from your world. We look forward to examining your data recordings and preserved samples." Jake and Lisa exchanged a quick look. The aliens clearly didn't understand what they had actually brought. "Headmaster," Jake said carefully, "when we said we brought specimens, we meant living animals. Actual creatures from Earth." The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Every alien present went completely still. Living ... Creatures? Vorthik's voice was barely above a whisper. "Yes," Amy said excitedly. "We brought a dog, a cat, a bird, and some other animals to show how diverse life is on Earth. They're all friendly." The giant insect being made a sound like grinding metal. The tree-like alien's leaves rustled nervously. One of the floating ghost beings began to glow brighter. "You brought living predators ... to the academy?" Vorthik asked. Danny looked confused. "Well, I guess some of them hunt for food, but they're not dangerous to us. Rex is the sweetest dog you'll ever meet, and Whiskers just likes to sleep in sunny spots." The aliens began speaking rapidly to each other in their own languages. The universal translator couldn't keep up with all the different voices talking at once. Finally, Vorthik raised a hand for silence. "Perhaps we should discuss this further tomorrow, please. Keep your specimens contained until we can establish proper safety protocols." As the aliens left, Jake could hear them talking urgently as they walked away. He caught fragments through the translator. "Unprecedented, dangerous, notify security." Lisa sat down heavily on one of the beds. "I think we may have made a mistake," Carlos grinned. "Or maybe we're about to teach them something they never expected to learn." In the cargo bay of their ship, Rex the border collie was sleeping peacefully next to his food bowl. Whiskers the cat was grooming himself calmly. Talon the hawk perched quietly on his stand. And in a separate enclosure, 3 feral cats rescued from Earth cities were watching the walls with alert, wild eyes. None of them knew that their mere presence had just caused the first security alert in the Galactic Academy's 1,000-year history. The alarm bells started ringing at dawn station time. Jake Sullivan woke up to the sound of urgent announcements echoing through the corridors of Kepler Station. The voice belonged to Headmaster Vorthik, but it sounded different now. Scared. "All students report to designated safe zones immediately. Security teams to Docking Bay 7. This is not a drill." Jake sat up in his bed, confused. Lisa Martinez was already awake, looking out their small window at the corridors outside. Aliens were running everywhere, their movements quick and panicked. "What's happening?" Danny Thompson asked from the next room. "I don't know," Jake replied, but he had a bad feeling about it. The door to their quarters opened, and a group of alien security guards entered. They were all different species, but they moved together like a trained team. The leader was one of the reptile-like beings Jake had seen the day before. Its scales were dark green, and its eyes were bright yellow. "You are Commander Sullivan?" it asked. "Yes, what's the problem?" "The problem is in your cargo bay. You must come with us immediately." Jake and his team followed the security guards through the station. As they walked, Jake could see alien students pressed against windows, staring at them with what looked like fear. Some were making sounds that the universal translator couldn't interpret, but Jake didn't need a translator to understand terror. When they reached the docking bay, Jake saw a crowd of aliens gathered around their ship. They were all staying far back, as if something dangerous might come out at any moment. Headmaster Vorthek was there, along with several other important-looking aliens. They all turned to look at the humans as they approached. "Commander Sullivan," Vorthek said, "we have scanned your vessel. The readings are troubling." "What kind of readings?" Lisa asked. A new alien stepped forward. This one looked like a giant insect, but it wore what appeared to be a military uniform. "I am Security Chief Clickstar. Our sensors detect multiple life forms in your cargo bay. Life forms with high aggression levels and predatory brain patterns." Carlos Rivera started to laugh, but he stopped when he saw how serious everyone looked. "You're talking about our animals," Amy Foster said. "They're not dangerous. They're our friends." The insect being's antennae twitched rapidly. "Friends? You befriend predators?" "Well, yes," Danny said. "Rex has been my dog since I was 10 years old. He's like family." The aliens made various sounds of shock and confusion. A floating ghost-like being began to glow brighter, which Jake was learning meant it was upset. "Perhaps," Vorthak said carefully, "you could show us these creatures from a safe distance." Jake nodded. "Of course, but I promise you, they're harmless." The human team walked to their ship while the aliens followed at what they clearly thought was a safe distance. Jake opened the cargo bay doors, and immediately several things happened. At once, Rex, the border collie, came running out, his tail wagging and his tongue hanging out. He was excited to see new people, and he bounded straight toward the group of aliens. The reaction was immediate and dramatic. The insect being jumped backward so fast it fell over. The floating aliens shot up toward the ceiling. The reptile creatures hissed and showed their teeth. Several of the smaller aliens made high-pitched screaming sounds. "Rex, sit!" Danny called out, and the dog immediately stopped and sat down, still wagging his tail. The aliens stared in amazement. It follows commands?" one of them whispered. "Of course he does," Danny said, walking over to pet Rex. "He's a good boy. Watch this, Rex, shake hands." Rex lifted his paw, and Danny shook it gently. The aliens made sounds that might have been gasps. "How do you control such a beast?" Security Chief Clickstar asked. "I don't control him," Danny explained. "We're partners. Rex wants to make me happy, so he does what I ask." At that moment, Whiskers the cat came walking out of the ship. He was a large orange tabby, and he moved with the confident stride of a cat who owned the world. He looked at all the aliens, seemed unimpressed, and sat down to start cleaning his paw. "Another predator!" Someone shouted. Whiskers looked up at the noise, gave what could only be described as a judgmental stare, then went back to grooming himself. "This one shows no fear," observed a tree-like alien whose leaves were shaking. "It looks at us as if we are beneath its notice. That's just how cats are," Amy said with a smile. "They think they're in charge of everything." Lisa knelt down and called softly to Whiskers. The cat finished cleaning his paw, then walked over to her and began purring as she petted him. The sound of purring seemed to confuse the aliens even more. "What is that vibration?" Vorthek asked. "He's purring." "It means he's happy and content," Lisa explained. "The predator is happy." Before anyone could answer, a loud screech came from inside the ship. Talon the hawk was announcing his presence. Jake went to get the bird, returning with the hawk perched calmly on his gloved arm. The sight of the hawk caused complete panic. Several aliens ran away entirely. Others began making emergency calls on their communication devices. The hawk, meanwhile, simply looked around with mild interest at all the strange new creatures. "This is a flying predator," Jake said calmly. "His name is Talon. He's trained to hunt, but he only hunts when I tell him to. You control when it kills?" The question came from a mechanical-looking alien that Jake hadn't seen before. "Not exactly. It's more like we have an agreement. I take care of him, and he works with me." But the real chaos started when Carlos opened the second cargo container. 3 feral cats had been rescued from the streets of Detroit, and they were not happy about being in a strange place with strange smells and strange sounds. The first cat, a small black female, came out low and cautious. Her ears were back and she was making a low growling sound. The second, a large gray male, followed her out and immediately began yowling loudly. The third, a scarred orange tom, took one look at all the aliens and arched his back, hissing. Spitting. The reaction from the aliens was immediate and extreme. Alarms began blaring throughout the station. Emergency lights started flashing. The floating aliens disappeared entirely, probably through the walls. The insect beings began clicking rapidly in what sounded like panic. "Containment breach," someone shouted. "Multiple hostile organisms loose in the docking bay. They're just scared cats." Carlos called out, but his voice was lost in the chaos. "Security." Chief Clickstar was speaking rapidly into a communication device. "All stations, we have a code red situation. The humans have released multiple apex predators into the station. Request immediate backup and containment teams." The feral cats, meanwhile, had found a corner where they huddled together, still hissing at the crowd of panicking aliens. Rex was trying to approach them in a friendly way, but they weren't interested in making friends. "Please," Jake said, trying to be heard over the alarms. "They're just animals. They won't hurt anyone." Headmaster Vorthek's voice cut through the noise. "Commander Sullivan, you must return these creatures to your ship immediately. The station is going into full lockdown." "But they're harmless," Amy protested. "Well, mostly harmless. They might scratch if you corner them, but they won't attack unless they feel threatened." "Might scratch?" Vorthek repeated. "You brought creatures that might inflict wounds to an academy of learning." Lisa stepped forward. "Headmaster, I think there's been a misunderstanding. These animals are common on Earth. Human children play with them every day." "Children?" The words seemed to horrify the aliens even more. "You expose your young to these predators?" "They're not predators to us," Danny said. "They're friends, family," the mechanical alien spoke up. "Our analysis indicates these creatures have killed thousands of smaller life forms." "Well, yes," Carlos admitted. "Cats hunt mice and birds. That's what they do naturally. But they don't hurt humans. How can you be certain?" Clickstar demanded. Danny knelt down next to Rex and put his arm around the dog's neck. Rex immediately leaned against him and licked his face. "Because we trust each other." The aliens fell silent, staring at this display of affection between human and animal. It was clear that they had never seen anything like it. "You trust creatures that could kill you?" Vorthek asked quietly. "They could kill us," Jake admitted, "but they choose not to. Just like we choose not to hurt them." The silence stretched on. Finally, one of the younger aliens, a small purple being that looked like it might be a student, spoke up. "How do you know they will not change their minds?" Amy smiled. "Because we love them, and they love us back." The concept seemed to break something in the aliens' understanding. They began talking rapidly among themselves in languages the translator couldn't handle. Finally, Vorthek raised a hand for silence. "This is unprecedented. We must contact the Galactic Council immediately. Until then, these creatures must remain contained." As the humans began gathering their animals back into the ship, Jake heard fragments of alien conversations. Words like impossible, dangerous, and unknown capabilities kept coming through the translator. He had a feeling that their simple educational exchange had just become something much more complicated. The feral cats were the last to be collected, and they went back into their container with loud protests. As Carlos sealed the door, he looked at the crowd of still panicked aliens. "You know," he said to Jake, "I don't think they're ready for the part where we tell them some of these cats used to be wild and chose to live with Huma." 3 days had passed since the animal incident, and things were getting worse instead of better. Jake Sullivan sat in his quarters, reading reports from around the station. Every day brought new problems that the humans never saw coming. The first major incident happened when Danny took Rex for a walk in the exercise corridor. The corridor was empty, or so they thought. Danny threw a rubber ball down the long hallway, and Rex chased after it with his usual enthusiasm. His claws clicked on the metal floor as he ran, and his tongue hung out happily. What Danny didn't know was that a group of Vailter students were floating invisibly near the ceiling, practicing their meditation exercises. The Vailter were ghost-like beings who could become nearly transparent when they were calm. When Rex came running down the corridor, barking with joy as he chased the ball, the Vailter panicked. They became visible again, glowing bright blue with fear, and shot upward so fast they hit the ceiling. Their terrified wails echoed through the station's air systems. "Rex, come here, boy," Danny called, completely unaware of what had happened above him. Rex returned with the ball, tail wagging. Proud of his game, the Vailter students spent the next 2 hours floating in the medical bay, too scared to come down from the ceiling. When security arrived, they found Danny and Rex sitting peacefully in the corridor, wondering what all the fuss was about. The second incident was worse. Whiskers had been exploring the station during his free time, as cats do. He had discovered the maintenance levels, where small repair drones worked constantly to keep the station running. To Whiskers, the drones looked like interesting new toys. They were small, moved quickly, and made little beeping sounds. Perfect for a cat who was bored and looking for entertainment. When Whiskers caught one of the drones and brought it back to Danny as a present, the mechanical Axiom delegates declared it an act of war. The drone was damaged but not destroyed, and it had recorded everything. The footage showed Whiskers stalking the drone with perfect hunting precision, then delivering a killing bite to its main processor. He was just playing, Danny tried to explain to the crowd of angry mechanical beings. Cats bring gifts to people they like. It means he considers you part of his family. The Axiom leader, a tall robot with glowing red eyes, stared at the broken drone. This organic creature hunted down our technology with calculated precision. It studied our defense patterns and exploited our weaknesses. He followed a moving toy, Amy said. "It's normal cat behavior." "Normal?" The robot's voice rose in pitch. "Your companion deliberately disabled our equipment and presented it to you as tribute. This indicates a level of tactical intelligence we have never encountered in non-sentient species." Dr. Lisa Martinez tried to help. "Cats have been hunting small prey for thousands of years. They're very good at it, but it's just instinct." "Instinct," the robot repeated. "An instinct to destroy technology and offer it to humans. What does this say about human intentions toward our species?" The situation got even more complicated when the feral cats started acting up. Being confined to the ship was making them anxious, and anxious cats make noise. Lots of noise. The first night, they yowled constantly. The sound echoed through the docking bay and into the station's air systems. To human ears, it was annoying, but harmless. To alien ears, it sounded like the battle cries of wild beasts preparing to attack. The plant-like Sylvani were the most affected. They communicated through subtle chemical signals and low-frequency vibrations. The cats' yowling disrupted their communication completely, leaving them unable to talk to each other or coordinate their movements. Please, begged Elder Moskin, the Sylvani representative, make the creatures stop their war calls. Our younglings are withering from fear, Carlos tried to explain. They're not war calls, they're just upset about being locked up. Cats don't like confined spaces. Then why do you confine creatures that protest so violently? Asked Elder Moskin. We don't usually confine them, Amy said. At home, they can go wherever they want. The implications of this statement caused another wave of panic. The aliens realized that on Earth, these predators roamed free. They could go anywhere, do anything, and the humans just accepted this. The worst incident happened during the night shift. One of the feral cats, the large gray male named Smokey, managed to escape from his container. Carlos had not sealed it properly after feeding time, and Smokey squeezed through the gap. Smokey was scared, hungry, and in a strange place full of strange smells. He did what any sensible cat would do. He found a small dark space to hide in and waited. Unfortunately, the space he chose was a ventilation duct that led directly to the Cathara dormitories. The Cathara were insect-like beings who prided themselves on being fierce warriors, but they had never encountered anything like a stressed feral cat. Smokey spent most of the night moving through the ventilation system, trying to find a way out. His claws scratched against the metal as he walked. His eyes glowed in the darkness. Occasionally, he would yowl in frustration, to the Cathara students below. It sounded like a demon was stalking them through the walls. They could hear the scraping of claws, the eerie glowing eyes at the vent openings, and the haunting cries of what they assumed was a creature hunting them. By morning, half the Cathara dormitory had barricaded themselves in their rooms. The other half were standing guard with weapons, waiting for the monster to attack. When Carlos finally found Smokey curled up asleep in a supply closet, the cat was completely calm and peaceful. He had found a warm, quiet place and was perfectly content. This is your terrifying monster, Carlos announced to the group of armed Cathara warriors who had come to help hunt the beast. The warriors stared at the sleeping cat. It infiltrated our most secure areas, one of them said. It moved through our defenses without triggering a single alarm. He was looking for a comfortable place to sleep, Carlos explained. While we were trying to sleep, another warrior added. It studied our schedules and chose the optimal time to invade our territory. Dr. Paul Weber arrived to help with the situation. He was the team's animal behavior expert, and he had been trying to explain animal psychology to the aliens for days. The cat wasn't invading anything, he said patiently. Cats are naturally curious. They explore new environments to understand them. It's how they survive. Survive by learning our weaknesses, a Cathara commander said grimly. Weber sighed. Survive by finding safe places to rest and sources of food and water. Basic survival needs. But the damage was done. News of the incident spread throughout the station. Each story grew bigger in the telling. Rex's playful run became a high-speed attack. Whisker's drone hunt became a calculated assault on alien technology. Smokey's exploration became a stealth infiltration mission. The alien students started avoiding the human quarters entirely. Teachers whispered in corners about the predator masters who had come to their peaceful academy. Parents from across the galaxy sent messages demanding their children be kept safe from the feral human companions. Jake found himself called to meeting after meeting with station officials. Each time, he tried to explain that the animals were harmless, but each explanation seemed to make things worse. You say they are harmless, Headmaster Vorthek said during one particularly tense meeting, but our security recordings show calculated hunting behaviors, territorial marking, and coordinated pack activities. They're just being animals, Jake replied. This is normal behavior for Earth creatures. Normal, Vorthek repeated. Commander Sullivan, do you understand what you are telling us? You are saying that on your world, creatures with advanced hunting skills, stealth capabilities, And tactical intelligence roam freely among your population. Well, yes. And your people, including your children, interact with these creatures daily, of course. Vorthik was quiet for a long moment. Commander, how many humans die each year from attacks by these creatures? Jake thought about it. Almost none. Maybe a few people get scratched or bitten, but serious injuries are very rare. The aliens in the room exchanged looks that Jake couldn't interpret. You coexist peacefully with creatures that our best security experts consider extremely dangerous, Vorthik said slowly. They're not dangerous to us, Jake insisted. They're our friends. Yes, Vorthik said quietly. That is exactly what concerns us. As Jake left the meeting, he overheard two alien officials talking in the corridor. If humans can live safely with such creatures, one was saying, what does that make humans? I don't know, the other replied. But I'm beginning to think we should be more worried about the humans than their pets. Jake realized that their simple cultural exchange was turning into something much more complicated. The aliens weren't just afraid of the animals anymore. They were starting to be afraid of the people who could live with such animals and call them family. That night, as he lay in his bed listening to the distant sounds of Smokey yowling in the cargo bay, Jake wondered if they had made a terrible mistake. They had come to show the galaxy that humans were ready to join the galactic community. Instead, they might have shown the galaxy that humans were something entirely different from what anyone expected. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was called for the 5th day of the human visit. Jake Sullivan sat in the center of a large, circular room, surrounded by representatives from dozens of alien species. The mood was tense, and many of the aliens kept glancing nervously at the exits. Headmaster Vorthik stood at the center podium, his silver skin glowing more brightly than usual. Honored counselors, we face an unprecedented situation. The human delegation has brought creatures to our academy that challenge everything we understand about civilized behavior. A Cathara war chief stood up, his insect-like body clicking with agitation. These humans claim to be peaceful, yet they travel with a pack of trained killers. Our warriors have analyzed the tactical capabilities of these creatures. They possess stealth technology that surpasses our own. Stealth technology? Jake interrupted. You mean the way cats walk quietly? That's just how they move naturally. The war chief's antennae twitched. Naturally? You admit these capabilities are inherent to the species? Dr. Lisa Martinez tried to help. What we're trying to explain is that these animals have evolved these abilities over millions of years. They're not weapons. They're just animals being animals. The mechanical axiom delegate projected a hologram showing the damaged repair drone. This creature disabled our technology with surgical precision. It identified the exact vulnerable point and delivered a targeted strike. Whiskers bet a moving toy, Amy Foster said. That's what cats do. They have good reflexes. Good reflexes, the axiom repeated. Reflexes that allow them to defeat advanced technology. Elder Moskin of the Sylvani spoke next, his tree-like body rustling with distress. The nocturnal vocalizations of these creatures disrupted our entire communication network. Our analysis suggests they were testing our frequency ranges to find optimal disruption patterns. Carlos Rivera laughed, then stopped when he saw how serious everyone looked. They were yowling because they were upset. Cats make noise when they're unhappy. It wasn't an attack on your communications. But the effect was the same, Elder Moskin said quietly. The floating Veilter representative spoke from near the ceiling, still too nervous to come down to floor level. Our students reported that the canine creature demonstrated pack coordination and territory scanning behaviors. It mapped our exercise areas and established patrol routes. Rex was playing fetch, Danny Thompson said. He likes to run and catch balls. It's a game. A game that involves rapid reconnaissance and object retrieval. The Veilter noted. Jake could see this was going nowhere. Every explanation the humans gave seemed to make the aliens more worried, not less. He was about to try a different approach when a small voice spoke up from the back of the room. "May I say something?" Everyone turned to look. It was HFY, a young Xanthari student. He was barely half the size of the adult Xanthari, and his silver skin was still dim with youth. Headmaster Vorthak looked surprised. "This is not appropriate. Young one, return to your studies, please," HFY said. "I have been watching the humans. I think we are misunderstanding something important." The council members murmured among themselves. It was highly unusual for a student to speak at an official meeting. "Very well," Vorthak said finally. "Speak quickly." HFY floated down to the center of the room, his large black eyes focused on Jake. "Yesterday, I saw something strange. The human female Amy was with the angry cats, the ones that make the loud noises." "The feral cats," Amy said. "Yes, she was not controlling them with technology or force. She was not even giving them commands. But she made them calm." The council fell silent. This was news to most of them. "How?" asked the Cathara war chief. HFY looked at Amy. "Show them, please." Amy looked around the room nervously. "I would need to bring one of the cats here." The reaction was immediate. Half the council members stood up, ready to leave. Alarms started beeping as security systems activated. "Wait," HFY said. "I will go with her. If it is dangerous, I will be the first to know." Vorthak stared at his young student. "HFY, this is extremely unwise." "Maybe," the young alien said. "But I think understanding is more important than being safe." After much debate and the activation of multiple security protocols, Amy was allowed to bring one of the feral cats to the council chamber. She chose Luna, the small black female who was the calmest of the three. When Amy entered carrying the cat carrier, the council members pressed themselves against the walls. Security guards surrounded the area with weapons ready. Luna, sensing the tension, began to growl softly. "She's scared," Amy said. "All these strangers and strange smells are making her nervous." Amy sat down on the floor and opened the carrier. Luna peeked out cautiously, her green eyes wide with worry. "Now watch," HFY whispered to the council. Amy didn't grab the cat or give her commands. Instead, she sat very still and began to speak in a soft, calm voice. "It's okay, Luna. I know this is scary. All these new people in new places. But you're safe. I'm here with you." Luna crept out of the carrier slowly, staying low to the ground. She looked around at all the aliens, clearly ready to run back to safety at any moment. Amy continued talking softly, not trying to touch the cat or force her to do anything. "That's a good girl. You're very brave. I know you don't like crowds, but these people want to understand you better." Gradually, Luna began to relax. Her ears came forward instead of being pinned back. Her tail stopped thrashing. She moved closer to Amy, still cautious but no longer terrified. "How is she doing this?" whispered the Axiom delegate. Amy slowly extended her hand, palm up, letting Luna smell her fingers. The cat sniffed carefully, then rubbed her head against Amy's hand. "She trusts me," Amy said simply, "and I respect her. I'm not forcing her to do anything. I'm just showing her that she's safe." Luna began to purr, the sound echoing strangely. In the large chamber, several aliens stepped closer, fascinated despite their fear. "The vibration," Vorthak said. "It is different now, calmer." "Purring means she's happy," Amy explained. "She's telling me that she feels safe and content." HFY floated closer. May I try to touch her?" Amy looked at Luna, who was now sitting calmly beside her. "Move very slowly. Let her see your hand first. If she backs away, stop immediately." HFY extended one thin finger toward the cat. Luna watched him carefully but didn't run. When his finger touched her head, she leaned into the contact and purred louder. The sound that went through the council chamber was unlike anything the universal translator had ever heard. It was pure amazement from dozens of different species all at once. "She allowed me to touch her," Zapai said in wonder. "A creature you say is feral and dangerous allowed a stranger to touch her." "Because you were calm and gentle," Amy said. "Animals can sense our emotions. Luna could tell that you weren't a threat." Dr. Paul Weber, who had been watching from the doorway, stepped forward. "This is what we've been trying to explain. The relationship between humans and animals isn't based on control or dominance. It's based on trust and understanding." "But how do you build trust with a predator?" asked the Cathara war chief. "The same way you build trust with anyone," Danny said. "You show them respect. You take care of their needs. You prove that you won't hurt them." Lisa Martinez nodded. "On Earth, we learned thousands of years ago that we could accomplish more by working with animals than by fighting them. Dogs help us hunt and guard our homes. Cats control pest populations. Hawks can scout from the air. But they could turn on you at any time," said the Veilter representative. "So could you," Jake pointed out. "So could any of us. Trust always involves risk." Elder Moskin rustled his leaves thoughtfully. "You are saying that humans choose to be vulnerable to these creatures?" "Not vulnerable," Amy said, still petting Luna. "Protected. Luna would defend me if something threatened us both. She's not. Just my responsibility. I'm hers too." The concept seemed to stun the aliens into silence. Finally, Vorthak spoke. "You form partnerships with creatures that have the capability to harm you, based solely on mutual affection and trust?" "That's right," Jake said. "And this works?" Carlos grinned. "Humans have been living with animals for over 10,000 years. It works pretty well." The council members began talking among themselves in hushed tones. The universal translator caught fragments: unprecedented cooperation, emotional intelligence, voluntary symbiosis. Zeppe was still gently petting Luna, his eyes wide with wonder. "She is so soft and warm. I can feel the vibrations of her contentment." "That's called purring," Amy said. "It means she likes you." "She likes me," Zeppe repeated. "A creature that could harm me chooses instead to like me." The young Zenthari looked up at the council. "I think I understand now. Humans do not control these animals, they befriend them. The animals choose to cooperate because they want to, not because they have to." Vorthek stared at his student, then at Amy and Luna. "The implications of this are staggering. If humans can convince predators to love them, what else might they be able to convince?" Finished the Cathara war chief, his voice very quiet. Jake looked around the room and realized that something fundamental had changed. The aliens were no longer looking at the humans with confusion or fear. They were looking at them with something that might have been awe, or maybe something that might have been a very different kind of fear. 2 weeks had passed since the demonstration with Luna, and Kepler Station had become a very different place. The emergency meetings had ended, but new types of meetings had begun. Secret ones, urgent ones. Meetings that Jake Sullivan was not invited to attend. Danny Thompson noticed it first. He was walking Rex through the exercise corridors when he saw a group of alien officials watching them from behind a transparent wall. They weren't afraid anymore. They were studying. "There. Taking notes," Danny told Jake later. "Every time Rex responds to a command, every time he shows affection, they write it down. It's like they're trying to figure out how we do it." Amy had similar experiences with Luna and the other cats. The feral cats were no longer confined to the ship. After the council demonstration, they had been given the run of a specially prepared habitat. But Amy noticed that the habitat had hidden cameras everywhere. "They're recording everything," she told the team during one of their evening meetings. "Every interaction, every moment of trust building. I think they're trying to learn our methods." "Doctor," Lisa Martinez had been invited to give lectures about human-animal relationships to alien students and faculty. The lecture halls were always packed, but the questions she received were becoming more and more specific. They don't just want to understand how we bond with animals, she told Jake. They want to understand how we bond with anything. Yesterday, a HFY War strategist asked me if human bonding techniques would work on sentient species. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. What did you tell him? The truth. That humans form emotional bonds with all kinds of beings. Friends, family, even former enemies. But I don't think that's what he wanted to hear. The change in the aliens' behavior was subtle but unmistakable. They were no longer avoiding the humans. Instead, they were being almost too friendly. Too interested. Too eager to please. Young Zepe had become a regular visitor to the human quarters. He spent hours with Amy and the cats, learning to pet them and understand their behavior. But Jake noticed that Zepe asked very specific questions about human psychology and social structures. How do humans choose their leaders? Zepe asked. One day while watching Luna play with a feather toy. We vote for them, Amy explained. We choose people we trust to make good decisions for everyone. And if a leader makes bad decisions, then we choose someone else next time. Zepe was quiet for a moment. What if the leader has formed emotional bonds with the people? Would they still vote against someone they cared about? Amy paused, suddenly realizing the direction of the conversation. It depends on how bad the decisions were. But yes, humans can separate their feelings from their judgment when they need to. Fascinating, Zephai murmured, making notes on his personal device. The real revelation came during Jake's private meeting with Headmaster Vorthek. It was supposed to be a routine discussion about the remaining schedule for the human visit, but Vorthek had other questions. Commander Sullivan, Vorthek began. We have been studying the data from your species' interactions with these predators. The psychological implications are remarkable. How so? Your species possesses an ability we have never encountered before. You can inspire loyalty and affection in creatures that have no logical reason to trust you. This suggests a level of emotional manipulation that surpasses anything in our recorded history. Jake felt his stomach drop. It's not manipulation. It's genuine care and affection. Perhaps to you it feels genuine, Vorthek said carefully, but the result is the same. You convince other beings to act against their own survival instincts. In order to please you. That's not what happens, isn't it? Vorthek interrupted. These cats hunt for you, bringing you their kills as gifts. The dog obeys your commands even when those commands might put him in danger. The bird of prey returns to you instead of flying away to freedom. How is this different from the most sophisticated forms of psychological control? Jake was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was steady but concerned. Are you afraid of us, Headmaster? Vorthek's silver skin dimmed slightly. Commander, in the past 2 weeks, we have contacted every major government in the galaxy. We have shared our observations and our analysis. The response has been unanimous, which is, everyone wants to be humanity's friend. The words hung in the air between them. Jake realized what Vorthek was really saying. You think we're dangerous? No, Commander, we think you're powerful. More powerful than any species we have ever encountered. And power of that magnitude, it changes everything. That evening, Jake called an emergency meeting with his team. They gathered in the common area of their quarters, with Rex lying peacefully at Danny's feet and Whiskers curled up in Amy's lap. We need to talk about what's happening here, Jake said. I think our visit has had consequences we never intended. Lisa looked up from her notes. You mean the way they're studying us? I mean the way they're afraid of us, Jake corrected. Not afraid of our animals, afraid of us, Carlos frowned. But we've shown them we're peaceful. We've proven that we're not aggressive, have we? Jake asked. Or have we shown them that we can make apex predators love us? That we can convince wild animals to trust us and cooperate with us? The implications hit them all at once. Danny spoke. First, his voice quiet. They think if we can do that with animals ... We could do it with them, Amy finished. Jake nodded. Think about it from their perspective. They've spent thousands of years controlling their emotions and aggressive instincts. They've built their entire civilization on logic and suppression of feeling. Then we show up with creatures that should be their enemies, and those creatures love us. But that's not manipulation, Lisa protested. That's just how humans are. We form bonds naturally. To them, it might look like the same thing, Jake said. An ability to influence others through emotional connection. And if we can do it without even trying. Paul Weber, who had been listening quietly, spoke up. What if we can prove that? Our intentions are peaceful? Show them that we use these abilities to help, not harm? How? Carlos asked. The answer came from an unexpected source. Zepai appeared in their doorway, looking nervous but determined. I apologize for interrupting, the young alien said. But I have been listening, and I think I can help. Jake gestured for him to come in. What do you mean? Zepai looked around the room, his large black eyes taking in the humans and their animal companions. The council is meeting tomorrow to decide whether humanity should be admitted to the Galactic Alliance or contained, Danny asked. Isolated. Kept on your home world. Never allowed to spread to other systems. The humans exchanged worried glances. This was much worse than they had thought. But there is another option, Zepai continued. If humanity can prove that your abilities are beneficial to the galaxy, you would not only be admitted to the Alliance, you would be given a position of leadership. Leadership? Jake asked. Think about it, Zepai said, his excitement growing. Every species in the galaxy has problems with cooperation. Wars, trade disputes, territorial conflicts. But humans can make natural enemies into friends. You could help us solve problems we have struggled with for centuries. Amy looked down at Luna, who was purring in her lap. You want us to be galactic diplomats? More than that, Zepai said. You could be the species that finally brings true peace to the galaxy. Not through force or logic, but through understanding and emotional connection. Jake felt the weight of the decision settling on his shoulders. And if we refuse? Then tomorrow, the council will vote to quarantine your species indefinitely. That night, Jake stood at the observation window, looking out at the stars. The team had talked for hours about their options. In the end, the choice was simple. They could accept the role of galactic peacemakers, or humanity would be trapped on Earth forever. Behind him, he could hear Danny playing with Rex, Amy talking softly to the cats, and Carlos training Talon to perform new flying patterns. Normal human activities that had somehow convinced an entire galaxy that humans possessed supernatural powers of persuasion. Tomorrow, they would stand before the Galactic Council one more time. But this time, they wouldn't be explaining why their animals were harmless. They would be deciding the future of human civilization. As Jake watched the stars, he realized that their simple educational exchange had become something none of them had ever expected. Humanity was about to become either the most trusted species in the galaxy or the most feared. Either way, nothing would ever be the same. The next morning, as alarms chimed throughout the station, calling all beings to the Great Assembly Hall, Jake looked at his reflection in the mirror. Behind him, Rex was wagging his tail, excited about the new day. Whiskers was stretching in a patch of artificial sunlight. The feral cats were grooming each other peacefully. Animals that had started as simple educational specimens were about to change the fate of humanity forever. Jake smiled grimly and headed for the door. It was time to find out what kind of future humanity would have among the stars.